So this is a new one for the channel. A review not of a game, but of a book about games. Fight Magic Items, the history of Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and the rise of Japanese RPGs in the West. If you watch my channel, you already know that the subject falls squarely into my wheelhouse, and I was incredibly excited to give it a read. Sourced from magazines, podcasts, gaming news sites, and funnily enough, YouTubers, Fight Magic Items tells the tale of the genre's humble beginnings, from its start as an adaptation of tabletop role-playing games, all the way up to the modern day with its resurgence in the form of the rare big-budget AAA release, HD re-releases of older titles, and the nostalgia-driven indie scene. Of course, being a book about the history of JRPGs, its primary focus is on the continued influence that Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii and Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi have had not just on the genre, but on the video game industry as a whole. Author Moher's passion for the subject matter comes through splendidly. The book is well researched and cited. It's not a dry read either. His personality shines through in the numerous comedic footnotes sprinkled throughout each chapter, and his personal anecdotes are emotionally infectious. To me, the book's greatest strength is the way it manages to reflect both the initial response to the titles discussed, as well as the modern zeitgeist, reminding us that influential is not always the same as timeless, though it's also sure to point out that that doesn't mean the games aren't worth experiencing and studying in their own merits. There's no denying that the book is well written, but my biggest takeaway after finishing it was a newfound confidence that I'm fairly knowledgeable on the subject matter. There was very little within its pages that I didn't already know, and I'm a bit concerned that that'll be a consensus shared by many other genre-savvy readers. If you are a die-hard fan of the genre who's already spent years poring over interviews and wiki pages, there may not be much here that you haven't already read. This is a beginner's course, not a master class. That's not to say I learned nothing by reading the book. There were a few fun factoids scattered throughout that did take me by surprise. For example, Lutz, localized as Noah in the English release of Phantasy Star, was originally conceptualized as an intersex character. The book also cleared up a long-held misconception I, and many others, had about the development of Final Fantasy VII, and more specifically, the origins of Aerith's death scene. It's been a wild ride watching video games change from a nerdy and niche hobby to a mainstream daily pastime for such a large chunk of the world's population. Books like Fight Magic Items are a great reminder of how far we've come, both in seeing how the medium itself has grown and in how every day it's being taken more and more seriously as an art form. The fact that the book even exists is a net positive, and while it isn't the first published book on the history of video games, it's likely to remain an important part of that ever-growing library. If you are a newer JRPG fan interested in the genre's roots, or a longtime enthusiast who just wants to take a trip down memory lane, Fight's Magic Items is a worthwhile 300 pages. Contrarily, if you're already well versed in the subject matter and hoping for some deeper revelations, you may want to look elsewhere. For those of you on the fence who need some convincing one way or the other, well, my cat Pixel absolutely loves it. As usual, thank you all so much for watching. I'd like to give a special thanks to the author Aiden Moher and Running Press Publishing for personally giving me a review copy of the book. As a smaller game critic with not a lot of reach, it really means the world to me to be given opportunities like this. I'd also, of course, like to thank my patrons: Caffeine, Charlotte Sommers, Dennis Marion, Gabe Nunez, and Nika Hypa. If you'd like to join these kind people in supporting my work, I have a Patreon link in the description. Thank you all once again, and I'll see you in my next video.